Okay, so let's get into this. We got a really unusual stack of source material for this deep dive.
We really did.
It's a full script from a talk in Cambodia back in 2023, and the contrast in it is just dizzying.
Yeah, that's the word for it. On one hand, you've got these, incredibly meticulous details about a retreat schedule.
Right, down to the flavors of the drinks they have for sale.
And then on the other hand, you get this philosophy that is so radical, so non-dual, that it just throws out almost every spiritual convention you can think of.
It's like finding, the secrets of the universe scribbled on the back of a grocery list. The logistics and the philosophy are just running in parallel.
Exactly. And our listener, the learner, basically wanted us to be a guide through that, to sort of navigate this intersection and pull out the core teachings on identity, effort, and, well, reality itself.
So our mission is to make sense of that chaos. And what's really interesting is how the physical setting they describe is almost designed to amplify the message.
Oh, absolutely. If the teaching is about the absence of the me, then the environment has to be set up to remove all the props that hold that me in place.
So the retreat was in a place called Haring, Cambodia. They'd apparently just moved there after about, 12 years in another village?
Yeah, that's right. And right away, the speaker lays out the rules of the game. And rule number one is designed to be this psychological pressure cooker.
The mandatory digital detox.
All guests, phones, computers, everything, they're taken and locked away.
Which is critical, right? If you're going to argue that identity is an illusion, you have to get rid of the main thing we use to reinforce it, that digital mirror.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
And to push it even further, they have a total silence day every Thursday. It's a very intentional physical subtraction of the self.
That sets a pretty serious tone. But it wasn't all just sitting in silence. I found this part compelling. They also included this deep dive into the local culture.
The pilgrimage, yeah, to Kulin Mountain.
Tell us a bit about that. It's not just a tourist spot, is it?
Not at all. It's hugely significant. It's the sacred mountain of the Khmer civilization, active since the 600s or 700s. A place for hermits, for yogis.
Yeah.
And they were planning to see these specific carvings, lingams, that are etched right into the riverbed.
Which is such a powerful image, right? The divine just sort of embedded in the everyday flow of the world.
It is. And
Yeah.
then, this is where that contrast you mentioned just shines.
I know where you're going.
In the very next breath, we go from 7th century sacred carvings to breakfast options.
The kefir, local kefir, 2 rotating flavors.
Pink dragon fruit and carrot ginger, $4 a bottle.
And you have to return the glass bottle, don't forget that.
You have to return the bottle, and the speaker just moves seamlessly between eternal reality and the bottle deposit. It's a constant reminder that the absolute isn't separate from, $4 carrot ginger kefir.
It's the perfect setup to talk about the psychological state they're targeting, moving from the physical detox to this conceptual detox of the ego trap.
Right. And it kicks off with a participant sharing something pretty common. They said, I feel that I'm in a trap of ego, and so I realize I am the trap.
And most teachers would probably, explore that feeling.
But this speaker just cuts right through it. They say, look, that whole experience, that feeling of being trapped, it's all personal. It's a drama you're building for yourself.
And this is where it gets really fascinating, because he introduces this idea that every personal story is just a once upon a time fairy tale.
The fairy tale of identity. The idea that you, the listener, are constantly living in this narrative you've built from memory and what you expect to happen.
So everything from being a baby, your nationality, your parents.
All of it. Even the stories we hear about famous spiritual masters. It's all just a story. And the big question he poses is, what would you be without your story?
People are terrified of that, though, losing their personality.
Of course. The story is the prison, but we cling to it because we think it's who we are.
Okay, but hold on. If my story is just a fairy tale, how do I function? How do I know where I live if I just abandon the whole narrative?
Well, the speaker clarifies it's not about, getting amnesia. It's about stopping the identification with those facts. You can still use the map, the story, to get around, but you stop confusing the map with the actual territory.
I see. And to hammer that point home, he does this hilarious takedown of the typical guru origin story.
Oh, yeah. The master narratives. He describes that obligatory moment of total despair that leads to the big explosion and implosion into the eternity.
He calls it the Me Too movement, joking that everyone just buys it.
And the insight there is so important. If you believe enlightenment has to follow some dramatic, made for YouTube script, you're just giving your ego a new, more spiritual game to play. You're seeking a better story, not the end of storytelling.
That's a perfect transition into the whole idea of effort, because if looking for that big story is pointless, maybe the whole spiritual path is kind of flawed.
Exactly. A participant asks, straight up, does meditation have any purpose?
And the answer just turns the whole practice on its head.
It does. The idea of sitting down, closing your eyes, chanting for an hour a day, he rejects it completely. True meditation, he says, has to be 247, 365, just complete quiet.
And this isn't about just meditating for longer, is it? It's a total inversion of what effort means.
Precisely. The highest form of meditation is defined by what it lacks. It's being the laziest bastard you can be. It requires no effort.
So meditation is the absence of a meditator meditating about something.
That's the definition. The moment you have an agent, a me doing an action meditating, you're right back in the ego story.
But wait, if there's no effort, isn't that just spiritual nihilism? Why do anything?
And that's the tension you're supposed to feel. Because if your meditation makes you feel peaceful or makes you a better person, he calls that work. That's just self-improvement.
Which is relative.
It's relative. True meditation or realization shows no signs because it doesn't change you or give you anything. It's just the flat line of existence, the baseline that's there no matter what.
So if you think you've improved yourself through meditation, you've actually missed the entire point.
You've just used the absolute to decorate the relative self. It completely undermines the path as most people see it.
Which is why that one participant was so frustrated.
Right. 20 years on the spiritual path, and the speaker's response is just perfect. He says, you should be frustrated like hell.
Because the seeking itself becomes a new competition. Am I frustrated enough today? Have I tried hard enough?
And that striving, that effort to get to a state you already occupy is the problem.
And that idea connects directly to what he says about suffering. The me can't exist without a problem to solve.
So it just keeps creating them. It invents problems which were never there just to survive. A phantom needs a phantom problem.
And this kind of spiritual seeking, this effort, it often just gives you temporary relief, right? He talks about ashrams, specifically Ramana Maharshi's.
Yeah, he calls it instant spa wellness. People go, and the different frequency, the quiet, it stops their thoughts for a bit, so they feel peaceful.
So it's temporary?
Totally temporary.
Yeah.
The minute you step outside and get back into traffic, it's gone. The problem-making machine just reboots.
Which connects so well to that famous Ramana quote from his deathbed.
I can't go anywhere.
Because he never came. He was never separate. His reality was that uninterrupted absolute, not the temporary body or the ashram.
And that profound point is then followed by one of the wildest administrative tips I've ever heard.
The dark humor about staying in India longer.
Yes. If your visa's running out and you want to stay near the mountain, what do?
You commit a crime.
Commit a crime. The suggestion is to, go to the top of the mountain 5 times without permission. That'll get you tied up in a nice long court case.
And the genius of putting that anecdote right there, it shows the absurdity of trying to control your external world with these little rules and loopholes. It's the same impulse as the ego creating phantom problems. You can't game the system of existence.
Which leads right into the fundamental concepts he just throws out the window. Consciousness, awareness, the very bedrock of so many traditions.
He calls them fake, dream life.
I mean, that's a huge claim. How can consciousness be fake? Isn't that what we're supposed to be using for self-inquiry?
Well, his argument is that awareness is like the first selfie. It's a reflection of you, but it's not you.
Ah, I see. So the absolute doesn't need to be aware of itself to exist. Consciousness is just a function of the mind in this relative world.
A step away from the true reality, which he calls the Parabrahman.
Right, the Hindu term for the supreme absolute reality, the unmanifest source. He's saying this whole mechanism of awareness is just the first layer of the illusion.
And that brings us to what he calls the divine accident, a concept he attributes to the Buddha.
This is the key point. The Parabrahman It could not help but wake up. It wasn't an intentional act.
And the consequences of that are just massive.
They are. Because if there was no intention behind creation, no decision by a god to make a universe,
Yeah.
then there's no guilt, no sin.
The entire moral structure we build around spirituality just collapses. If it was an accident, nobody's to blame. There's no karma to work off.
It just is.
So, if we're already the absolute and striving is pointless and there's no sin, what is driving this whole spiritual search?
The desire to control, a tendency of ownership. He says it so humorously. I want to own my beloved your existence.
The ego wants to put the universe on a lease agreement.
And that leads to these huge misunderstandings, especially around the idea that only love is real.
This might be the most provocative part of the whole talk. He just rejects that idea completely.
He does. He says hate is as much real as love.
Which sounds cynical, but it's not. It's about polarity.
Exactly. It's just words.
Gotcha.
Polarities you need for this relative world to work. You can't have hot without cold. You can't have love without hate.
So the idea that love is an empty promise is because it automatically creates its opposite just by existing.
Correct. The moment you define love, you create the necessity of hate. So his advice to the seeker who's chasing that ultimate state of unconditional love is just forget love and be what you are.
Because anything you can experience, love, hate, peace, pain, it's all temporary, it's fleeting.
And the truth of what you are cannot be experienced by anyone. Because you're the one constant thing that was never lost. It's uninterrupted.
Okay, so let's bring this back for the learner. We pulled out the key pieces from this mix of Kiefer logistics and philosophy. We have the digital detox, the ego as a disposable fairy tale,
The non-effort of 2047 meditation as a form of laziness.
and the radical rejection of concepts like love and consciousness as being the ultimate goal.
And that central paradox just hangs over everything. The utter futility of trying to become something that you already and always have been. Every moment you try, he says, you suffer a punishment inflicted by yourself for a separation that was never real in the first place.
So why is it so scary then? If it's already here and takes no effort, why is the fear of letting go so massive?
Because, as the speaker asserts, the greatest fear isn't death. The greatest fear is eternity.
Wow.
The temporary me, that fairy tale self, it needs a beginning and an end to feel safe. The knowledge that it will not be over, baby, that your true state is endless and uninterrupted, that's the terrifying truth.
So that's the thought we'll leave you with. What happens when that illusion, your whole idea of existence, just dissolves, but you remain? Uninterrupted, storyless, and eternal.
Until next time on The Deep Dive.